Hello, friends. I am Chevy. Welcome to my shed. How are you today? How's life in your world? How's things where you are? I hope it's fantastic. It's good here. Yesterday, I asked if you guys had any questions, and we got one. It's not something that I thought I would turn into a full episode, but on the way down here, yeah, probably will. John asked, how many more snows would you guess you're going to have until summer? I'm going to guess two. Two more snows, but that's a hard thing to quantify. Like, yesterday, I think it was yesterday morning when I woke up, uh, it was icy. It was either yesterday or the day before, and there had been snow. That all melted off pretty early, and then it snowed later in the day. But by snowed, I mean there was flakes of ice in the air, but there wasn't snow, right? So that'll happen a few more times before April-ish. But it's absolutely nothing like it's not snow on the ground. I think maybe that might happen one more time at most. Maybe not again. I don't know. We have had in the past. We have had some late March, early April snows that have lasted, but that's not the past anymore. Snow here. For those of you that don't know, I live in West Virginia. People say we live in the Appalachians. Kinda. We're like in the foothills of the Appalachians. Where I live, it's just big hills. There's no mountains here, but we still say that they are. They're not. They're just hills. But it's it's at about 1,400 feet or so above sea level, so it's high enough that it gets a chilly. It's not. We're not in the desert. And it does snow here. And when I was a kid in the 80s and early 90s, snow was something that just came and stayed for a few months and then went away. I remember it snowing before Halloween in the past, and then it's snowing into April. Uh, I remember the 80s and 90s snows would last for months. I mean there would be periods where the ground was white for months at a time. We haven't had that in a very long time. Like basically since I got out of the Marines, the last 20 something years, there hasn't been snow like that. On occasion, we will have a bigger snow that lasts for a week or two. I think maybe 3 or 4 years ago we had one of those. It lasted a couple of weeks and then melted off pretty quickly after. But we haven't had those month-long winters like I used to have as a kid. I ride a motorcycle. I think some of you probably know that. And I could ride 12 months out of the year here. I only pay insurance for like 7 months out of the year, but I could ride year round. There's just not. It's not like it used to be. And for better or worse, that's just how it is. I personally love snow. I love winter camping. I love the kind of cleanness of it. It reminds me of hunting. I did a lot of that as a kid. It reminds me of trout fishing. I've spent a lot of time in snowy rivers fishing. So uh, for me, having the four seasons, it's something that I loved as a kid. When I lived in Hawaii, stationed there in the Marine Corps for 3.5 years, and saw no seasons. It was just, I mean, there technically is a winter there, and it might get down to 50s, but it's kind of the same weather year round. You're close enough to the equator that it doesn't fluctuate much. I got really bored with. I missed having four seasons. I missed having autumn, and I missed having this wait for the spring and the flowers, and I missed the calmness and the sereneness of wintertime. And I'm starting to miss it again. I miss those month-long snows. Um, I don't even own a jacket. No, I don't own a coat. M's been trying to teach me the difference. I don't own a coat. I don't own a winter coat. I have a jacket that I wear year round or 3 seasons out of the four, because it just doesn't get that cold here like it used to. I think this winter we have had some snaps where it's been a couple of days of below freezing, but not any amount of real time, and I just don't even own a coat. Weird, to think about. Because as a kid, there was absolutely no way. Like weather was so much different. We've talked about in the past. My bus stop was at a 7-Eleven. It was about a half mile or so, maybe a little more than a half mile from my parents' house, down over a hill, past the bottom of this hill. And at that time, we had the radio, and the local news station would run what's called the Snowbird Report, and that was, who's going to be off for the schools are closing. And if they got, if by the time I walked out that door, they hadn't said school was closing, I walked to the bus stop. And so there was a lot of my childhood walking through lots of snow to get to my bus stop, to stand there. My bus came, I don't remember the time, say 7:30, something like that. If it wasn't there by 7:45, I walked back home and found out that school was canceled. But we didn't have cell phones, there was nobody to contact us. My kids are now, like my oldest the other day asked me, they're like, why don't they just give us days off? Like, they have them on the books. Here, I don't know how it is in other places, but here we have an allotment for snow days, and we have an allotment for what they call climate control days. Climate control days are intended to be work from home days, kind of. They're not counted as, they're counted as part of the school year. So in West Virginia, kids have to go to school for X number of days or X number of hours. And so the climate control days count for those hours, whereas a snow day closed, that doesn't count. And we have an allotment. So our graduations, like they'll say, you might graduate, they might have graduation ceremony, say, I don't know, May 15th. But the school year might end between May 20th and June 5th, just depending on how many snow days we used. So we have an allotment, like, all right, we can use up to this many, and then we have to start paying those back, basically, and so they'll add them on to the end of the year. And so there have been times in the past where we would get out of school kind of the second week of June because we had used so many snow days. My kids have never really faced any of that. And those climate control days, they're not using them. She said the other day that Mon County, the county north of us, had used one of their climate control days for that day that it was snowing, even though it wasn't too bad. Here, we've sent kids to school in some pretty terrible conditions twice this year. And it's been like, what are you doing? Like, we're not going to use these snow days. Just let the kids have them. In the year of the sickness, they actually, even though everybody was, there was homeschooling was the only option, they gave the kids a couple of snow days, just like as a part of tradition, So they'll probably end up doing that by the end of this month if there hasn't been any actual snow. They'll probably have a couple of snow control days or climate control days or whatever you want to call it. But I'm starting to miss those seasons. I might have to go someplace snowy next year just to experience it because, haven't had much of it. What's it like where you are? So do you have those flexible school years because of, I guess, weather? Like if you're in the desert or whatever, do you have it's too hot to go to school today? Is that a thing? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for being here as always. Thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing, being amazing friends and wonderful people. I really appreciate you. And I'll see you again tomorrow. Today's word you should know to sound smart is proletariat. It is a noun meaning a class of society whose members earn their living solely by the exchange of their labor for money. Your average dentist thinks he is upper class, but in reality he is just another member of the proletariat. Proletariat, Proletariat. Members earn their living solely by the exchange of their labor for money. I guess I am a proletariat. I don't really have investments or anything like that.